Hi everyone, thanks so much for coming to Food Loves Tech today. I'm Julie from the feed, and I'm super excited about this next hour. We have Amber from SweetAmbs, who's going to be doing some amazing cookie decorating, and you're going to get to watch her in action live. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, for anyone that doesn't know Amber or doesn't follow her already, and if you're a fan of cookies, you definitely need to give her a follow at SweetAmbs. And also let me just talk a little bit about my company, the feedfeed. We're a crowdsourced cooking publication and food media company. And through social media, we've met people like Amber. And so it's really exciting for us to bring our community members in person to share what they do best with you guys. So Amber, is there anything you want to say?
Just thanks for having me. I'm excited to start decorating some cookies.
All right, awesome. So while Amber's doing that, we actually have some samples for you guys to try. These are gingerbread with royal icing. So we'll start to pass those out now. Andrew, if you could just help us with that. And Amber's going to sit here and we're going to watch her decorate cookies. Thanks. And I'll probably ask you some questions, and if anyone has any questions throughout, just raise your hand and then we can ask Amber that question while she's working. So actually my first question is about the colors. So I see you have liquid food coloring. Is that what you usually use, Amber?
Yeah, it's kind of a liquid gel, so it's really concentrated. You don't want to use like a regular liquid food coloring because it will change the consistency of your icing.
Okay.
So it's better to use like a concentrated gel, like the ones I have here.
Okay, great. And what's that tool you're using right now?
This is a scribe tool, also known as a scriber needle. It's basically just like you have like your needle with a handle, and I'm just using it to evenly distribute the icing around the cookie. And when I ice my cookies, I don't use like a stiff icing first. I just use the thin flood consistency for the outline and then fill it in right away. So I'm just using the scribe tool to kind of help shape the circle and make it all even all the way around.
And you use the traditional royal icing recipe?
Yeah, my royal icing recipe has a little bit more meringue powder than most, and I find that that gives the icing a more elastic consistency, so that way you can work with it a little bit longer. It doesn't crust over quite as quickly.
Okay, great. It already looks beautiful and better than any cookie decorating.
So that was just the base layer of icing, and then normally I would let that dry overnight, or at least 6 hours. I usually do the base layer and then let it dry, and then the next day I'll continue with the decoration. So I have some here that are already dry.
Okay,
so we'll just put that aside.
Okay.
Yep, so this one's totally dry. And now I'm going to go with, so that was the flood consistency icing, it's thin. Now I'm going to go with the stiff consistency.
And is this what you're making, Amber?
Yes, this is the brush embroidered cookie. So it's kind of supposed to look like embroidered fabric. And I've got my stiff consistency icing here. So this is just the consistency of the icing when it comes off of the mixer. There's no extra water added. So to get that flood consistency, you'd add a little bit more water at a time. But this is just right off of the mixer. And it's it's a thick consistency, like kind of like cream cheese. You don't want it to be like very fluffy, so you don't want to like over mix it, but just so that it's thick and creamy. So now I'm going to come in here with my square tip brush, and I just dabbed it with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to get rid of the excess. and then just brush the icing.
So when you're making your Instagram videos, do you just set a camera on a tripod overhead, or do you have someone else shooting them for you?
I have a tripod, so the tripod would be right like to my left and kind of looking over my shoulder. So then when I'm doing this on camera, I try to keep this hand away because it kind of gets in the way of the view. So I'll either try to keep my hand flat like this or just sort of keep it out of view completely. So yeah.
How did you start decorating cookies?
I was, I've always been interested in baking, and also I'm an artist, not professionally trained, but it's just always something I've done. Like painting and drawing is something I've always been interested in and done as a hobby. So I kind of combined the two, and I actually started out doing cakes before cookies. So I was just doing it for fun, for friends and family, and one day I just tried a batch of cookies just for fun, and I realized it was better for me because it actually is like less baking and more decorating, because you don't have to bake the cake and then like build it and ice it, and then you get to do the fun part. So the cookies, you just make one batch of cookies and you have all these blank canvases.
So let's talk about tools for a second. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 that you have up here with you. Do you have any kind of like outline or guideline on your website for people who want to get into cookie decorating and what kinds of tools they should have available at all times?
Yes, I do have a blog post on my website at SweetAmbs.com. It just lists like the cookie cutters that I use and all these things like the tips and the bags and these little bag ties here that keep the icing from coming out of the back. Also the scribe tool. What else? I think that's basically all the...
I've seen you also use is it an edible pencil or something where you draw on the cookie beforehand and then you use that sort of as an outline?
Yeah, there's edible markers that you can use, and those are really helpful for when you first, if you're not like, if you want to like trace an image onto your cookie, you can use the edible marker to do that. Also for really small details, you can use the edible markers, so it's really great for that stuff.
Okay, I'll keep decorating. One thing I wanted to mention is that we have partnered with Vitamix for this test kitchen, and we're giving away all of the Vitamix that you see here. So if you guys don't already have a Vitamix, I definitely would recommend investing in one. It's really a life-changing kitchen tool, and innovation that they've come out with really in the last couple of years is quite fascinating. A lot of things that you can actually cook directly in your Vitamix. So your wristband actually gets you a chance to win a Vitamix. If you want, I'll have someone from our booth come over and they can scan your wrist, and then you'll be entered for a chance to win. And yesterday we actually did another cookie workshop, and also it was a cookie decorating, and the person that we partnered with on that decorating workshop actually uses natural ingredients to dye her cookies. So what we did is we took freeze-dried strawberries and blueberries, and then we basically pulverized them in the Vitamix until they turned into a powder, and we used that to ice the cookies. I don't know if you use any natural dyes as well, Amber.
I do, but I don't make them myself, but I love that idea.
Yeah, so what's nice about the natural dyes, especially when you're using like a freeze-dried blueberry or a freeze-dried strawberry, is that you actually get the flavor of the berry in the icing. It's looking nice. So you use all different size tips as well?
Yeah, so for the flooding, the base layer, I use a tip 3. and then, which is, you know, they're all very small, but the tip 3 is kind of a relatively large one for me. And then this is also a tip 3 just because I'm using a stiff icing, so it's really hard to squeeze out if you're using a tip that's very tiny. But for really small details, I'll use a tip 1.
How were the sample cookies? Did you guys enjoy them? Do people hire you, or do you sell your cookies? And also, kind of, what are the inspiration for the designs that you come up with?
I don't sell my cookies anymore. I used to. I actually started out selling my cookies in an Etsy shop. And then I kind of realized that people were more interested in learning how to decorate them rather than buying them. So I started uploading videos to YouTube. And now I only do videos and classes. I do, the inspiration. Just a lot of like fabrics and things that I see, in the store. If I'm out shopping, I see a pattern and I think, oh, that would make such a cute cookie. Just, things that I see, or like I always like imagine what it would be like as a cookie. And also I do, like, if I partner with a brand, obviously they'll let me know what kind of design they want me to use. So a lot of my stuff on Instagram is, stuff that I've done for other companies.
Did you teach yourself how to do this, or you took a lot of classes?
I am a professionally trained baker. I went to culinary school, but they didn't really have a lot of cookie and icing instruction. So I just took what I learned in school and kind of just practiced on my own. I took a few Wilton classes. So, but really there wasn't a lot of cookie instruction when I started out. It was mostly like we would learn on cakes, and then I kind of took that and put it on cookies.
Beautiful.
Thank you. All right, how are we doing on time?
I think we're good. I would love to watch you.
Okay, let's do that one.
Next, especially because we have the holiday season upon us.
So now this one I'm using a tip 1 because these details are pretty small, and it's also medium consistency icing. So I've already used flood for the base layer, and then for the brush embroidery I was using stiff. So now we're using medium, which is just kind of in between.
And can you talk about the difference for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, so this one is more like, it's kind of like meringue. It's like a soft peak meringue for the medium consistency, so that it just like flows out of the tip really nicely and also like keeps its shape. So it's just really good for fine details.
For anyone who just walked up, this is what Amber will be using for you live on Zoom.
I'm gonna start over because that's not centered.
Okay. Mistakes happen. She's starting over.
So if you ever make a mistake, you can always just scrape it off, which is the nice thing about royal icing and cookies.
And you also have those over there.
Yeah, that's true. I'll just, so I'm just using a little bit of water to kind of erase that icing there. Sorry.
No problem.
I actually do, every one of these that I've done is, each one is always different, so it's like hard for me to repeat the last one I did.
So when you're making a video, I guess you then have to stop and start it over.
Oh yeah, I don't show the mistakes in the videos. Oh, that's a good question. The question is, what's the trick to keeping a steady hand? So I always have my arm resting on the table like this, and then my other hand holds the bag to keep it steady. And I never stand when I'm decorating. I always am sitting or have some kind of support.
So we actually should have provided Amber with a stool, but she's working with this chair, so I apologize.
That's okay. I didn't mention it when we were planning, so it's okay.
Keeping the cookies the same shape, how do you keep the cookies the same shape?
So I always keep the dough cold when I'm working with it. That's one thing. And also if you're using, it depends on the recipe you're using also. The one that I use doesn't use a lot of baking powder. There's no baking soda at all because that makes the cookies spread and puff up. So that's another thing. Keeping the dough cold helps because when you're cutting them, it's just like very firm, so you're not going to mess up the shape at all. So really, it mostly has to do with the recipe, but also making sure that it's the right temperature.
Someone who just walked up asked, did you use meringue powder?
Yeah, it's meringue powder and powdered sugar and water, and then a little bit of salt and vanilla. Yeah, actually, I have not tried this yet, but you can use the liquid from a can of chickpeas in place of the egg white powder.
We have an aquafaba feed on our website, so if you want, you can check that out. Aquafaba is the vegan meringue made from the liquid left over in a can of chickpeas. Feedfeed, the feedfeed. Anyone else who just arrived, feel free to take a sample cookie right here. It's a gingerbread with a royal icing.
Did you want to talk about it's in the magazine, the recipe?
Yeah, actually, this particular cookie is in the recipe is in our magazine, which is right across. We have a holiday cookie magazine that we collaborated on with another publisher, and it's all holiday cookie recipes. And when they asked us if we would pull together all the contributors for a holiday cookie edition, Amber was the first person who came to mind. So I was excited that she participated in that project with us. So the full recipe is in that magazine, which is on our table right here where Lena and Lauren are standing. So a cookie like this takes about 10 minutes, you think, to decorate? Or even
10,
longer.
15.
10, 15 minutes. Sorry to ask you to recreate one of the more difficult
Oh no,
designs.
that's totally fine, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about these, and I'm just going to bring it into frame for 1 second over you, but I won't
Oh,
mess
yeah,
that
go
one
ahead.
up. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the blending of colors to achieve that design, in case we don't have time to get through that particular method.
Yeah, so that one is, I can actually just do that one if you want to move on.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Awesome. Thanks, Amber. So do you start with?
Yeah, so you start with a blank cookie, and I'm going to go back to my flood consistency icing. Take this.
I mentioned that one in particular just because that palette tends to perform really well on Instagram.
Yeah, that's why I use it.
So here's the magazine for anyone who wants to take a look. So this is interesting because I was thinking that you were going to be painting on top of it, but it appears that you're not actually going to have that dry. You're going to work with that icing as is.
That's right. It's this one. You could do it dry, but this one's a little bit different. I'm going to apply food coloring to the wet icing and then kind of swirl it around.
Which is nice if you don't have a lot of time to wait for the icing to dry 6 hours or the next day. You can actually pull off this design at the same time.
Yes, that's true. So now I have this is Everclear that I'm going to add to the food coloring. So when you're painting on royal icing, you don't want to just use water because it dries too slowly, so it will end up making the surface really rough and leave holes in it where the water was. So you want to use alcohol because it evaporates really quickly and the icing can dry properly.
Nice tip. Thanks. Is that a gel color?
Oh yeah,
that
this
you're
is
using?
the liquid gel.
You mentioned that you teach classes. Where do you teach those classes and how do people sign up if they want to take a class?
I teach, I have private classes at my studio in Kingston, New York, which is about 90 miles north of here. And I also travel to teach from time to time. There's a page on my website that you can see what classes I have planned for the next few months.
But if someone wanted to hire you to come to them, and if maybe they were having like, I don't know, a bachelorette weekend or something, and that was one of the things they wanted to do, you would travel and teach a class.
Yeah, I do travel to teach.
Awesome.
So I'm just going to switch to a tip 1 on this flood consistency icing to make the stars.
And that's just a wet paper towel you have on the side that you're wiping that off on?
Yeah, so each time I drag the scribe tool through the icing, I just want to wipe it off so that way I don't get the color inside the star.
Who's ready to try this at home? So, do you call this your galaxy cookie?
Yeah, this is the watercolor galaxy I've been calling this. So that's that.
Awesome.
Do we have time for one more, or?
What time is it? Do we have time for one more? Yeah, we have time.
Yeah, okay.
Are we going?
We're gonna
making
go
this
for
one?
this one.
Okay, let me bring it into frame for everyone else who's looking at the camera here. Oh yeah, so it's this cookie we'll be making right now.
So I'll do one more video for that.
Okay. So again, you're starting with the icing, and you're going to be able to decorate it without this bottom layer having to dry.
Yes, this is the wet on wet technique. It actually looks cute even like that. It looks cute even like that. Oh.
So you call this one the rose?
Yeah.
One thing that we've been talking about over the weekend is it's amazing how platforms like Instagram give you an opportunity to reach out to content creators like Amber. I'm sure people make comments and questions on your videos and your posts, and they could be anywhere around the world. I know that happens a lot on our Instagram account. And even with chefs, it's nice to be able to have an open dialogue. The technology has allowed us to ask a chef or a content creator questions, and that you can answer them and get back to them in real time.
Yeah, I actually also really like that people can show me their pictures by tagging me or using a hashtag. And even people will send me a picture and ask me like what if something's not going right. They ask me for advice, which is really nice. Yeah, that really wasn't possible before Instagram and Facebook.
And with video too, it's like when you see this as a still photo, you can't even imagine how someone has created this design on a cookie, but with the ability just to turn on a camera above your shoulder with a tripod and record this, and then you can publish that as a post. It's really great to be able to give that level of tip and tutorial to your audience.
That's true. So I have a drawing one here, so I'm going to put a border around that.
For anyone who arrived late, we do have some sample cookies up here on a white tray. Feel free to come and take one. It's a gingerbread cookie with royal icing. And we're going to be putting all of these cookies over onto this surface. So anyone who would like to take a photo and post it on your own Instagram account, feel free to do that. And we just ask that you tag SweetAmbs and the feedfeed. Thank you.
All right, so that's all the designs that I have now. I could continue decorating if you want to just watch.
Does anyone else have any questions for Amber? Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. She's going to just continue to decorate. If you want to come up and watch a little closer up, that's fine. And again, I'm going to bring these cookies over here. And you're welcome to take a photo. Thank you so much, Amber, for coming out today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had fun.